Two new sectors could see changes among the latest round of tariffs. President Donald Trump announced that pharmaceuticals from outside of the U.S. will see a 100% tariff, along with certain building supplies and home furnishings. Those drug tariffs were supposed to start Wednesday, but they were delayed, so the Trump administration could evaluate if companies have any U.S. manufacturing plans. They have proposals that they said that were sent to them. Here to discuss what impact consumers might see and what this means for some of the sectors, we have Professor of Economics at Youngstown State University, A.J. Semmel, back with us. Thank you for taking the time, A.J.
Happy to be here.
Yes, so let's start with the pharmaceuticals, because I think a lot of folks are wondering, does this affect my daily medicine or the medicine I may need soon? So a 100% tariff is pretty substantial on the pharmaceutical industry. Is it the U.S. that it's really heavily reliant on the medications from overseas, or is it that we're seeing a combination of manufacturing where they want to level the playing field?
Well, we do import more pharmaceuticals than we produce here. So any 100% import tariff would certainly have a big effect, potentially on all pharmaceuticals, because domestically produced pharmaceuticals would also potentially increase prices as a result of these tariffs.
And what would be some of the main medications you would think of?
Well, honestly, I don't know offhand like which specific like name brand drugs are produced in the U.S. versus abroad, but I do know that the vast majority of generic drugs are produced abroad, and so I think generic pharmaceuticals, which are generally lower cost, would see a greater impact as a result of these tariffs than name brand pharmaceuticals.
Okay, that's how some people want their prescriptions to be those lower prices. That's where this comes into the concern for families.
Correct.
How could the supply chains be interrupted? Do you think that the tariffs would do that? Do you think that they would pay the tariffs offhand or immediately pass it off to the consumers? What do you think may happen if those go into effect?
Well, there's no doubt that consumers would see higher prices as a result. And that's in large part because, especially with generics, there's not a high price markup or profit margin that comes through those drugs. So they don't have the ability to really just eat those costs the way some potentially other products or name brand pharmaceuticals might. And so they would in some ways have no choice but to pass those additional costs on to consumers in the form of higher drug prices.
I know the White House wanted to delay. They said they have proposals that they're looking at on some companies maybe onshoring and doing U.S. manufacturing. But how quickly and realistically can that be done, given the fact that the production is already overseas and it's operating?
Correct. It would take, I mean, it takes years to be able to start a new, especially pharmaceutical plant, because there's a lot of regulations associated with that. And it takes potentially tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars to do. And so there have been announcements where drug companies are planning to invest in more domestic manufacturing. But before that is even operational, it would take several years.
Do you foresee the administration or even Congress stepping in saying, hey, maybe a combination of things could be done here, look at proposals but wait on the tariffs, or do you think that's maybe not a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's always a lot of, I think, negotiations behind the scenes, and there's some uncertainty. You know, these tariffs in general have been put off several times in the past with the idea of trying to negotiate better plans with these companies in order to encourage more domestic manufacturing.
And real quick, fall, a big time for going indoors, people having parties to watch football. Do you think the remodeling end of things with those tariffs is going to take a big hit?
So you mean with regard to
supplies,
building supplies and lumber? Yeah. So potentially, I mean, it's kind of the same impact. I think the concern also with that is, even if it has the desired effect of increasing the amount of domestic jobs in these industries, there's the downstream effects that we have to be concerned about. And with lumber and building supplies in particular, there's a lot more jobs. There's actually more than 3.3 million jobs in the residential home construction industry than there are in the actual lumber and domestic supplies industry. And so there's less than 1 million jobs in lumber, but there's 3.3 million in home construction. And so while we might be protecting, you know, say, or creating tens of thousands of jobs in the domestic building supplies industry, we're potentially destroying hundreds of thousands of jobs in the home construction industry.
All right, we'll have to watch to see how this shakes out. AJ, thank you for joining us here at 5 to Explain.
Thank you.